Am I an asshole for refusing to take my wife back after discovering she was secretly engaged to another man during our break? My name is Ryan, 33M. I thought I had my life figured out. I thought I was one of the lucky ones, married to my best friend, building a life together. My wife Emily, 31F, and I had been together for almost 10 years, married for 5. We had a home in Los Angeles, a small 2-bedroom in Eagle Rock with a lemon tree in the yard that refused to die, and a rescue mutt named Cooper who thought socks were food. We weren't flashy, but I believed we were steady. Emily worked in PR, always dressed up, always running to client events and rooftop parties. She thrived in rooms full of strangers. I was the grounded one, an IT guy who liked cooking shows and routines. She used to say she loved how I made her feel safe. I loved how she made me feel like my life had color. We met in our mid-20s at a friend's game night. She beat me at code names and laughed, "You're smart, but you second-guess yourself." 3 years later, I proposed with a ring burning a hole in my pocket. She said yes through tears. That moment stayed in my head whenever life got tough, the day she chose me. We weren't perfect, but we were solid, or at least I thought so. Last spring, Emily sat me down at our kitchen table. She looked nervous, hands clasped tight, like she was about to deliver a difficult presentation. She said, "I need a break." At first, I thought she meant a weekend away. She shook her head. "No, Ryan, a real break. I feel like I'm disappearing inside the role of wife. I need space to hear my own voice again." I asked her straight up, "Is there someone else?" She swore no, over and over, swore on our marriage, on Cooper, on everything. She said she just needed to breathe. I didn't want to lose her, so I agreed. We made rules like two nerds writing a contract, 90 days apart, individual therapy, 1 joint session a month, and absolutely no dating. She squeezed my hand and repeated it twice, no dating. I moved into a tiny sublet above a florist in Highland Park. The place always smelled like eucalyptus and wet cardboard. The bed was loud, the walls were thin, and the AC rattled like it was begging for mercy. I still paid half the mortgage because it was our house, and I told myself this was temporary. I told my parents it was just a reset. I told myself the same. The first weeks were brutal. I worked, went to the gym, microwaved dinners, stared at the ceiling at night. Emily and I texted about bills, about the dog, little things. We went to our first therapy session during the break. She cried, said she was confused but wanted to work through it. I clung to that word, confused. Confused meant there was hope. By the second month, things shifted. She missed a session for a client dinner. She sent me a photo from a hotel ballroom, sparkly dress, champagne glass in hand, captioned, "Working." Friends started mentioning they'd seen her out with coworkers. Once, a buddy swore he saw her laughing with a guy who definitely wasn't from her office. I buried it all. I told myself we had rules, she wouldn't cross them. I wanted to believe her more than I wanted the truth. At the end of 90 days, instead of coming home, she asked for another 90. "Please don't push," she said softly. "I'm close to figuring it out." I wanted to scream. Instead, I swallowed it. "We're still not dating anyone, right?" I asked. She looked offended. "Of course not. Don't you trust me?" I told her I did. But inside, something cracked. The crack became a canyon a month later. I was in the server room at work when my phone buzzed. My college buddy Evan had sent me a screenshot. It was an Instagram story. Emily, on a rooftop under string lights, wearing a short white dress. She had her hand over her mouth, eyes wide with joy. In front of her, some guy I'd never seen knelt on one knee, holding out a massive ring. Caption, she said yes. Forever starts now. People had tagged her. They tagged him, at David Train LA. Comments flooded in, "You two are perfect. About time. Meant to be." I couldn't breathe. My hands went numb. We were still married. I called her, straight to voicemail. I texted, "What the hell is this?" Hours later, she replied, "Please don't freak out. We need to talk in person." We met at a cafe the next morning. She showed up in a linen dress, face already crumbling into apology. "I didn't want you to find out on social media," she said, as if that was the betrayal. "What did you want?" I snapped. "To mail me a save the date?" Her eyes filled with tears. "His name is David. We met at the gym. It started innocent, then, we connected. He proposed last weekend, and I said yes." I sat frozen. "We agreed, no dating," I said. She nodded quickly. I know. But I didn't sleep with anyone until..." "Stop," I cut her off. "Do not lawyer this." She cried harder. I felt alive for the first time in months. "He saw me." "I know that sounds like a caption," I said. "It sounds like a caption." And then she said the line that killed everything inside me. I didn't file for divorce because I wasn't sure. I needed a safety net. A safety net. That's all I was to her. Not a husband. Not a partner. Just a backup plan. I laughed, sharp, bitter, hollow. "I've been paying for the roof over your head while you tried on futures. I'm not a net, Emily. I'm a person." I walked out. The next morning, I called a divorce lawyer. Karma hit fast. Within a week, David found out she was still married. Someone in his circle told him. He dumped her immediately. Just like that, her new forever collapsed. And guess who she ran back to? She showed up at my apartment crying. I chose wrong. I was scared. "I do love you. Please, let's rebuild." She wrote me long letters, stood outside in the rain, texted at 2 a.m. saying she couldn't sleep without me. Her parents joined in. Her mom called and begged, "Don't throw away 10 years over one mistake." Her dad said, "A real man forgives." Some friends told me, "She came back, that's what matters." But it mattered why she came back. She didn't choose me. She only reached for me when Plan A dumped her. We had dinner with her parents at an Italian place in Pasadena. Her mom started, "Emily's remorseful. That should count." Her dad said, "People make mistakes at 30. You'll laugh about this at 50. Emily reached for my hand under the table. I pulled it away. She burst out, "He's punishing me." I leaned in and said quietly, "Punishing you would be posting the screenshots. I'm choosing divorce." Her mom snapped, "Family isn't disposable." I answered, neither is self-respect. The last attempt. Her final try was meeting me at Griffith Park. She brought my coffee order without asking, like muscle memory. She handed me a ring box. Inside was David's engagement ring. Sell it, she said. Use it for whatever you want. Think of it as restitution. I closed the box and pushed it back. I'm not funding my future with your past. Her eyes hardened. You're not perfect either. You shut down. You joke when I need depth. You like order more than people. I nodded. All true. And none of it makes me a safety net. We sold the house. I kept the dog. I moved into a one-bedroom with a stubborn ficus and a view of a telephone pole. Some mornings I still pour 2 mugs of coffee before I remember. Then I see that rooftop image in my head, Emily in white, smiling under string lights at someone else, and I put the extra mug away. I gave her 10 years. I gave grace until it turned into humiliation. She only came back because her forever plan collapsed. So, am I the asshole for refusing to take my wife back after discovering she secretly got engaged to another man during our break, and for choosing divorce over being the safety net she only reached for when her new life fell apart? Am I an asshole for exposing my wife's affair with my father during Thanksgiving dinner? I'm Aaron, 35M, and last Thanksgiving I detonated my entire family in one speech. My wife, Melissa, 33F, and I have been together 8 years, married 5. We live in Chicago. I'm a logistics manager for a food distributor. She works in hospitality PR, dinners, launch parties, the kind of job that makes everyone think your life is shinier than it feels at 2 a.m. when you're cleaning up after guests. We don't have kids. We were trying and then, we weren't. That's part of the story, in a sideways way. My parents split when I was a teenager but never divorced. Complicated, they called it. My mom, Elena, 58F, is a nurse who holds the world together with post-it notes and stubborn compassion. My dad, Rick, 61M, is the sort of charismatic man who can make a grocery list sound like a TED Talk. People love him in 5-minute doses. I loved him, too, in 5-minute doses. Longer than that and you start to see the seams, flirting that isn't harmless, promises that sound like commitments but cash out as excuses. For years, Melissa tried extra hard with him. She'd laugh at his stories, bring him his favorite bourbon on his birthday, linger in the kitchen when he stopped by. I chalked it up to her wanting a good relationship with my family, especially because things with my mom were effortlessly warm. But there were moments that left a mark. Once, at a 4th of July barbecue, my dad hugged Melissa a second too long and said, "We've got to keep this one happy, son," like he was borrowing ownership of we. Melissa laughed. I did, too. I told myself to stop being territorial. This is what I do in life, tell myself the story that lets everyone stay comfortable. Last spring the stories got harder to tell. Melissa started meeting clients later and later. She was careful, no lipstick on the collar cliches, nothing obvious. But the air around her felt different, always perfumed, always high tension, like a room right before a glass shatters. She'd sit on the couch scrolling and smile to herself, then lock her phone when I came near. If I asked about her day, she'd say, "Oh, the usual," and pivot to my day before I could ask more. In June, my dad texted me out of the blue, "Your mom's worried you're pulling away. Everything good?" That was odd. My mom would call, not triangulate through him. I answered something bland. He replied, "Let me take you guys to dinner. You've been grinding. You both deserve it." He suggested a new Italian place in River North. Melissa lit up when I told her. "Your dad's fun," she said, which is technically true, like saying fireworks are colorful when you're standing under them with a gas can. Dinner was loud and warm and a little too much. My dad told Melissa she had movie star energy, and she blushed in a way I hadn't seen in a while. On the ride home, she called him a riot and then went quiet, looking out the window with a smile that wasn't about the conversation we were having. I reached for her hand. She let me take it, but it felt like holding a glove. I ignored it. You get good at ignoring things in long relationships, especially when you're a conflict avoider who grew up watching fights explode and then get swept under the rug. A month later, a fuse I didn't know I'd lit reached the dynamite. On a Tuesday, I left my phone at home by accident and turned around at lunch to grab it. Melissa was supposed to be at a venue walkthrough. I came in quiet, not trying to sneak, just not expecting anyone. The apartment was silent. Then I heard a low voice from the bedroom, half laughing, half serious. "You're impossible." Melissa's voice, playful. Then a male voice, familiar enough to freeze me. "You love it." I stood there, heartbeat in my ears, staring at the hall like a coward. I wanted it to be a podcast on speaker, a video, anything. The apartment settled into silence again. I took 2 steps toward the bedroom. The toilet flushed. The bathroom door opened. My dad stepped out, wiping his hands on a towel like he lived there. We locked eyes for a full second, an entire childhood of baseball games and broken promises curled into that look, before he pasted on a smile and said too loudly, "Hey, champ." Melissa came out behind him in a robe, saw me, and went white. "Aaron," she said, voice small. The towel in my dad's hand might as well have been a white flag, he didn't raise it. I didn't say a word. I turned around, walked out, and sat on the building's front steps because if I started moving in a random direction, I was afraid I wouldn't stop. After a minute, my dad came out alone. "Listen," he began, palms up. It looks exactly like what it is," I said. "Get out of my sight." He tried a dozen lines in 30 seconds. "We never meant to hurt you. It was a stupid mistake. We were drinking. It's over. It's new. It's complicated. You don't understand your mother. He's always like that, grabbing any rope and hoping one holds." I stood up so fast he flinched. "Go," I said. He went, muttering something about calling me later, when we're calm. Melissa came out 10 minutes after, in jeans and a sweatshirt, face blotchy. She sat beside me on the steps and said, "I'm sorry," like a mantra. "It started after your mom and dad's anniversary party," she said. I was lonely. "You were distant after the fertility stuff," she said, and I laughed, this harsh, ugly sound that made a woman walking her dog look over at us. "You slept with my father because we had a bad doctor's appointment?" I said. She cried harder. "I'm not excusing anything. She choked on the next word. I'm broken. Here's the thing nobody tells you about betrayal. Rage doesn't always come first. For me it was centrifuge calm. I said, pack a bag. You're leaving. She nodded like a child. Where will I go? Anywhere he won't be, I said, and went inside to gather her things because doing something with my hands was better than screaming. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell anyone. I moved like a man surrounding an injury with gauze. The next day, Melissa texted me 100 apologies and 3 threats to tell your mother before someone else does. My father's messages were a carousel of self-justification and silence. I blocked him, unblocked him, blocked him again. I slept 3 hours in 48 and went to work to count pallets and pretend numbers could comfort me. By Saturday, silence felt like complicity. My mom called to ask what time we were coming on Thanksgiving. The question hit like a dare. My family does Thanksgiving as church, flannel tablecloth, big turkey, my uncle's canned green beans nobody eats, football humming in the background. It's the one day we pretend we're normal. I pictured them, my mom polishing the good forks, my dad telling a story with his hands, Melissa stirring gravy like she belongs in the picture, and something inside me said no. We are not doing this. I told my mom I'd be there. I didn't tell her the rest. For the next 5 days, I turned the plan over in my head like a stone, feeling its edges. Confronting Melissa alone had given me nothing but revised excuses. Confronting my dad would produce a smooth performance and a hug he'd try to make me return. Confronting them both where everyone could hear would blow up the room. But that was the point. These two people had built a lie on my back and expected me to set the table for it. I wasn't going to pass the gravy. Thanksgiving arrived sharp and bright. The air had that crisp, metallic smell Chicago gets when winter is pacing just off stage. I brought wine, because muscle memory is a tyrant. Melissa was already there when I walked in, which made sense. She'd always come early to help my mom. She looked at me like I was a cliff and she wanted to step back from it. My dad hugged me anyway, quick and hard. Glad you're here, son, he said like someone doing a decent impression of a father. We sat. The table filled with the usual, mashed potatoes, stuffing, cranberry sauce too perfect to be real because my mom molds it in a ring pan like a 1950s magazine. My mom lit the candles. My dad said grace, and I watched his mouth shape bless this family and thought about the 10 ways language can be a weapon. We dug in. Melissa passed the rolls. My dad made a joke about cholesterol. My uncle did his yearly bit about how the Lions might win a game before he dies. An ordinary scene like a set designer had placed us there. I felt my heart start to pound, the part of the fight or flight response I had denied for months waking up and stretching. My mom reached for my hand under the table, this quiet squeeze she gives me when she thinks I'm far away. I couldn't do it to her in a whisper later. I had to give her the truth now, while there was still gravy steam fogging the air, while it could be honest and messy and not another quiet holiday wound. I put my fork down. I need to say something, I said. Everyone looked up. My dad made a face like, oh ho, a toast? Melissa's eyes went wide. My mom smiled, because she believes in me as a principal. Thanksgiving is for gratitude, I began, voice steady in a way that surprised me. It's also for truth. And I can't sit here and pretend this family is what it pretends to be. My uncle laughed, well, that's ominous, and reached for the gravy. He froze when he saw my face. I looked at my dad. You're sleeping with my wife. The sentence landed like a meteor. The room didn't breathe. The TV in the living room kept muttering about halftime like another universe was continuing just fine. My mom said, very softly, Aaron, like my name was a question. My dad recovered first, of course. He put his hands up in that politician's triangle and said, son, you're upset. Don't, I said. Don't shape this. You don't get to narrate this one. Melissa spoke next, eyes fixed on the table. It was a mistake.